Welcome to Contingent Workforce Strategies, another episode of Ask the Expert. I'm here with my close friend, Michelle Cox. She is an executive coach and a leadership consultant. I always introduce her as the executive coach to the staffing and the contingent workforce industry. She's, been in the industry for a long time. She was a former program lead at a large US telecom. Prior to the contingent workforce, she's executive leading implementations of large-scale projects for that telecom company as well. So, Michelle, welcome today. It's amazing to have you back on Ask the Expert, and I'm super excited about the topic today. The top 3 ways you can grow your business or move your business forward. And it's a leadership topic, and we've got you as the expert here, Michelle. It's a topic that's applicable not only to business owners, but to executives, contingent workforce program leads, right? And so, wanted to kind of throw that out there and make sure that the audience understands that it's not just for the business owners. So talking about the top 3 things that will get in your way when you're growing your business or implementing a program, it in a lot of cases it becomes scary and people see it as change. So, thinking about it, what are some of the key things that you have to think about to enact change?
Yeah. So, first of all, people need to know where you're going. If you want to enact change, you need to have a clear vision about where you're going and why you're going there. If people don't know what that looks like, they can't get behind you. They can't get enrolled in what that looks like, nor can they actually contribute to the bigger picture.
For sure. And what would be, some of the things to look for as you're working on the change as well, and in leading people forward?
Yeah. So I would say, one of the number one things that I see that gets in people's way, especially when you're leading through change, is you are looking when people look toward the past. Oh, we've always done it this way, or the change isn't necessarily a huge change. It's really just a different flavor of what you've always done, which people don't necessarily get behind. If you've always done it that way and you keep doing the same thing, times change, everything changes. And you have to be willing to go out there and take a collaborative approach around reinvention and around what it looks like, what it could look like.
Yeah, well, and it's the old adage I've seen on a number of systems implementations where people are used to using spreadsheets, and they'll implement a system but still keep their spreadsheets right along the side. It's just a bad practice. You At some point you got to rip the band-aid off and say, just because you've done it that way, give it a try and move forward, right?
Yeah, 100%. Or if you're looking at it from I love the example that you use, the spreadsheet example, or it's, you know, a hiring manager never had to actually implement anything in a system before when a new rec comes out. And they're like, I don't want to do that. We've never done it that way. So it's kind of funny because you can take this topic and look at multiple different ways. Well, that hiring manager is still stuck in, we've never done it that way. Why do I have to do it that way? And so you really have to set that vision about what is possible by shifting and what they're going to get out of it. So they need to see and actually be enrolled in what the future looks like.
No, that's really good advice. And understanding the why, right? In a lot of cases, when you're developing the vision, the why we're doing this is so important as well.
Incredibly. People don't know why you're going someplace. It's really difficult for them to get behind it. There's a great book, Start with Why. So it's a fantastic book, Simon Sinek. I highly recommend it for anybody, but it's for anything you're doing in the organization, whether you're communicating, whether you're implementing change, whatever you're doing, like people understanding why you're going someplace is so important. Otherwise, it could save money, it could save time, it could save whatever it looks like. It can produce an ROI in a different way. Productivity. I mean, I could name a gazillion different ways, but if people understand that, they can get behind it.
That's awesome. And so once you've set the vision, you know, enabling or getting your teams to buy in and start moving things forward, and you know, either growing the business or making sure the project's on schedule and on time, like what are some of the best practices and things you've seen that get into people's way when either growing their businesses or running projects?
Yeah. So one of the number one things that I see from what gets in their way, and then I'll flip it on the flip side about what to do with it. So is managing and controlling. And managing and controlling looks like, I want it done this way. I want you to implement this. I want you to do X. It's like a sense of like, you need to report back to me for every little step that you take. I mean, it's almost a sense of micromanaging. And when you actually release all of that and you empower your teams and you empower your employees, like to go out there, not only to implement or to come up with new ideas or to really be a voice of the organization, be a voice of the customer for you, you all of a sudden now have all sorts of creativity and things that are actually going to make your business better. And if you're only doing it alone, it's going to take you 10 times longer to get to where you want to be. You're going to be constantly fighting. You're going to be fighting an uphill battle because people don't get enrolled if they're not truly contributing to the bigger vision. And if you're just telling them what to do, they're just puppets. People don't want to be puppets. They want to contribute.
Exactly. Well, and I almost envision it as, okay, you're the leader, but you don't always have to be up front and stifling to your people. And if you envision it as almost you're up front and everybody's in a single file behind you, you're the bottleneck to the growth of your business or the project itself, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And it's more looking at like, people want to be surrounded and you want to be surrounded by people. You want people that are communicating with you, that are coming to you. Here's my idea. Here's a best practice. Here's a challenge that I need to overcome. How can you help? And then you trust and empower them to go out and do it. And it's not saying that you don't inspect. So I want to be really clear here. You inspect what you expect, but you let them go and do what you hired them to do and let them go do it.
It's so important, right? You can't, in this day and age, you can't be a one-man army.
You can't. You need
or
a team.
Woman army as well,
Yeah,
of course.
exactly. One person here. We're
One
just
person army. Exactly.
person. You need to have a team of people because you can't do it alone. So I think you'd be okay with me mentioning this. When you and I worked together years ago, one of the things that you say, well, I have all this to do. I'm doing like responses to RFPs. I'm doing this. And you're the owner of a company. And I'm like, well, the likelihood is your team wants to contribute and they will contribute. And as soon as you started opening up the doors, your team was like, yeah, I'll take that on. I'll take that on. And you're able to accelerate your business. And that's just an example of a really specific thing so people can understand what it looks like in action.
Oh, no question. And quite honestly, in most cases, they were able to do it better than I could ever do it.
Yes,
So
that's the
you
other
hire
part.
people that are better than you and let them shine, right? And
Yes,
that helps, right? So
100%,
that's
100%.
so cool. So, you know, we're talking about the top 3 things that will get in your way as you're growing your business or running a project. You know, you set the vision, you get the ball rolling, and you know, what are some of the ways to ensure that success to follow through? Because you know, one of the first things is to start the project, right? The next thing is to continually follow through. So how do you help, and what are some of the obstacles that you may bump into along the way that you can overcome to make sure you're getting to that goal line?
Shiny object syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is the biggest thing. And I mean, I know, and I work with a lot of leaders that are visionaries. And I love visionaries because it's super fun, because they're super creative. They have big ideas. And the challenge that comes up with that is that they never finish the idea that they had to start with, because they've already moved on to 10 ideas later and their team is still trying to catch up. Right. So they're like, well, we started working on this and working on ensuring that we finish this through. Now you see this other thing, and now you're wanting us to turn directions, and that thing never happens. And so you need to surround yourself by a team of people. First of all, that's going to tell you no.
Yeah.
But I mean, quite frankly, it's no, and it's a yes and in 6 months when we complete this project, or it's in 3 months, whenever it is. So you're not bouncing or setting your team up for failure because you're bouncing from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. Set your priorities and always ask yourself, how does this idea relate back to the vision that we created at the beginning of the year? Keep asking yourself, does this align? Or is this outside of alignment? And if it's outside of alignment, table it. Come back to it. Doesn't mean that it has to go away, but ensure that you're executing against that vision and constantly asking yourself that, so you don't get off topic, or you don't go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing and you never implement anything.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we've done in the past on different things is, I would always call it a critical path, but essentially it's an implementation plan, right? And if the goals are well defined up here, you break it back down to the resources and the activities you got to do step by step to achieve those goals, and you focus on those, right? In saying that, though, as shiny things come up, you can always write them down, but put them as low priorities, and they're not actually aligned with that. But someone also, I love the terminology too, said to me, here's the goal, let's focus on the goal, the rest is noise. And if you kind of think of it as noise tends to be annoying and not give you what you want. So it also puts a negativity to those shiny objects, so that you're focused on where you're going, right?
Yes. And one thing that I would say is, like, if you're starting down a path to implement something, I think the other piece is measuring. Like, how do we know we're successful? Because if you're stopping something and moving people onto something else before you've actually measured, then, I mean, and if you ask yourself, are we successful? Have we done this? And if your answer is no, then you know that you're not ready to move on to that next thing yet.
So that's the fourth key thing. So
Yeah,
I know
sorry.
we were talking about top three, but I would put that as a very important high priority to measure results, so you know you've achieved the success that you were
Yeah.
envisioning.
Well, and measure along the way, because you could have a project and you're doing an implementation. That implementation could take you 5 months. But if you have what you were talking about, having your project like design and ensuring like you know where you're going by when, etc. And if you're able to say, by the end of month 1, we should be here, requirements should be set. And I'm just throwing out as an example, requirements should be completed. That's month 1. So, you know, like, that's how I know I'm successful. Month 1, month 2, like, we should be having strategy calls on like change management, whatever, you know, so you're able to literally measure each stage of your project and how successful you're being in that stage.
Great advice. And, I want to say thank you very much for coming on and exuding your wisdom on the leadership front, and reviewing now the top 4 things
I know.
that may get in your way or you're not doing to ensure the successful growth of your business or movement forward of your project. So, Michelle, thanks again for being on Ask the Expert. It's always awesome to see you.
Thank you so much. Always, always happy to be here.